in order to be able to run a company, I think you need to sell something. So I think you need to have that experience at some point. Yeah, because you can learn about finance, you can learn about product marketing, you can learn about, but if you don't know how to sell, man, it's difficult, no? And if you want to run a company, you need to sell something. You need to sell your services. You need to sell yourself. You need to sell your brand. You need to sell. It's about that, right? So I think sales, it's something I've been always very close to since I started working, even before Google. So I think sales is something important.
Today I'm here with Jorge De La Puente, one of the smartest performance marketers I've worked with. We've worked together for what I think like almost a year at this point. And what's super special about Jorge is that he's the owner of multiple businesses. I believe like 4, 5, 6, even. I don't precisely know the number of businesses, but he has a performance marketing agency that's quite successful. I believe over 60 employees and also some brands of his own. And you have spent like what, 150 million, I think, in Google Ads, like a crazy number like that.
Yeah, it was plus $100 million in Google Ad spend. Yeah, over the last 5 years.
That's crazy. So like, how is it? Like, what's your day to day? Like, almost like when you have like so many different things going on, because a lot of people struggle just having one business. Like, you have a lot.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is probably goes a little bit against what I've done. So it's normally much better to focus in just one business and make that grow. So diversifying a lot at the beginning is not what I would probably advise to do. But anyway, I did launch different businesses. They are kind of related between each other. Um, so I guess so you need to be a very organized person. You need to fucking work really hard as well. But then I guess it's more about the people you work with and the people you surround with. So you need to have a really good team. You need to be able to delegate and how to do that. I think that's critical in a business. So you need to have a really good delegation skill, let's say. And then it's all about supporting the people that you work with, motivating them, helping them, and then making quick decisions in the different businesses. But again, in a summary, I would say it's more about the people that you work with. You need to have really good people managing the different businesses. So it's about taking care of those guys and help them grow.
What I've noticed, because I've worked with your team quite a lot, is that they're commercially minded. Like, shout out to Alvaro, to Winston. They are like business people. It's not that they just have like a checklist and they just follow the checklist, but like they actually like care about growing the business.
Yeah, I think it's probably more. I also come from say from a sales background. So at the end, when people work with me, they do see that kind of commercial acumen. So it's something that probably sticks as well there. So they learn a little bit about it. So I don't want just people to work on the typical things. I want people to think outside the box as well. So not just doing the basics. So I do really push people to try and do different things and test different things. I think that's really important. So yeah, I guess that's probably one of the reasons why they.
I think you were initially, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were initially working at Google, which is like, for me as an outsider, it's almost like sounds like a perfect company, right? Like we always say, oh, it's Google. It's like one of the biggest organizations in the world. So like, how did you decide to leave that almost perfect, I assume, environment and like start something that's like your business?
Yes, well, Google was definitely one of the best experiences I've had in my life, in the corporate life, let's say. So I learned a lot there. I met really smart people. I used to live in Dublin for just 8 years, so I worked 8 years in Google. I think corporate life, it was not for me since I was young. I always wanted to do some stuff on my own, but definitely Google was a really big step towards that. So I learned quite a lot about online business and advertising and marketing. So I did take that and leverage that in order to start building my own companies. So probably the reasons why I left Google, it's again, I always had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. So I always wanted to do stuff on my own. I don't know, even when I was young, I don't know, even if I go to a restaurant or I go to a coffee I always try to understand why I'm buying a coffee in that particular coffee shop, right? And not on the other one. So kind of trying to think how that business is going, how could you improve it? Why am I buying from this guy, right? And not buying from the other guy. So I always had this kind of mindset. So since I was young, but I guess once you start working in a really good company, there's one. So you reach a certain point where at the end it's a corporation, right? So in order to keep growing, even though you're like the best manager, or you can be the best sales manager, or you can be the best salespeople, sales rep, or whatever, at some point there's a lot of bullshit in all the companies when you work in a corporate life. So if you really want to keep growing the ladder and keep scaling in that company, there's a lot of bullshit you need to do.
Like office politics and stuff? How do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you need to be kind with everybody, even though if you don't want, like kind of politics and play that kind of game. Which again, it's probably the only way you can keep growing in that company, even though you're probably the best sales manager or whatever. So I don't really want to play that game for the rest of my life. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to leave Google. And again, I only have good things to say about Google. It's probably the best company in the world, and certainly at that point, when I used to work there, everybody wanted to work in Google. So it was the best experience I've had. But again, once I worked there for 8 years and then I got promoted several times there, you reach a certain point where you need to start playing that politics all the time. So I really didn't want to get into that game. So that was the first thing. In terms of freedom, even though you work in a really good company, I was able to travel a lot, but you don't get that freedom that I saw some other friend of mine that they owned their own businesses. I couldn't travel wherever I wanted. I couldn't work from wherever I wanted always. So that kind of freedom I wanted to have, I couldn't have it in a corporate life. Even though in Google you were kind of flexible and you were allowed to travel, but you don't reach that kind of, let's say, freedom that I wanted to. And then even though you have like a good salary and really good salaries in Google, you don't get that kind of finance freedom totally. So I really wanted to take care of my family because that's what they've been doing for all of my life. Now it's my turn, let's say, to take care of them. So I knew that the only way to really, really help them, it was building my own business. Obviously, understanding all the challenges and all the things that you need to go over, but that was probably the three things that made me change from Google.
For me, I didn't work at Google, but I was working in a good company and I had like a very senior position there. And like what I felt, and actually that's I guess the main reason why I left and started my own company was that there were a lot of things that I think I would do differently or like I could do better almost. Like this sense of wanting to do things my way, like that was a very 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 strong like feeling that I had. And I said I'm gonna do it, like I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna do it. Did you feel like that way maybe?
Yeah, so you're not always allowed to do everything that you want, right? Even though, again, in Google, it was quite flexible. The mindset was really good, and you were allowed to do lots of things that probably in other companies you were probably not allowed to do. But you're still kind of restricted. You need to follow some guidelines, right? So you're not 100% free to do whatever you want. You can propose things, obviously. Some of them get approved, some of them don't. But obviously, you cannot do everything that you would like to do. So, yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons as well.
And okay, so you were at Google, you decided to start like something that what was your first business? Like how did you start?
Yeah, so I started doing some affiliate business. So that's basically running marketing campaigns for other brands at a performance level. So basically, you get paid only if you sell that product for that particular brand. So I started doing that for trading companies, iGaming companies as well. And I started on my own, starting to do that. So I started to make some money there. But that was my first business, like doing it on my own and again running Google Ads campaigns for other brands.
I think that's kind of the best way to get good, right? Like to only get paid when you make results. Like you get good quickly, right?
Well, you have to, right? Because if not,
Exactly.
you're fucked. You're not, you cannot even eat, right? So yeah, I think it's the best way to learn, right? Because you're pushed to try and do it the best way. Because if not, you're not going to get paid. And I think a little bit now in nowadays in the agency business, I think that's a little bit what we're lacking, right? You always keep this kind of percentage of spend when you talk to an agency, right? And that's not really what a brand is looking for. A brand is looking for growth, right? And metrics regarding revenue and profit, not just about the spend itself and having this retainer fee. I think it's more about performance. I think the agency business itself, I think it should evolve a little bit towards more performance.
And like this first affiliate business, like is this the origin of KNN, the agency that you now have, or like was this a different venture?
Yeah, so it started there. So then I realized that I needed more people if I wanted to scale. So once I understood how to run Google Ads campaigns for third-party brands, I decided to start scaling. So I needed some tech in order to build those websites and those funnels more quickly. And then I needed more media buyers in order to be, let's say, launching more campaigns at the same time. So it all started with that, really. So that's where the agency started to pick up. And then from there, I've been doing many other things that we can discuss later on, e-commerce and stuff. But yeah, I guess performance, Google Ads, and affiliate business was basically where I started with.
Were you also doing YouTube, or like was it more Google?
It was more Google, yeah. So YouTube was in a next phase, let's say. We do YouTube now a lot, but it's different. It's a different way of optimizing campaigns, and the funnels are very different. But yeah, it all started with Google search, basically.
Okay, that's interesting. And you have this agency, it's like now starting to pick up. You have like you spend a lot, like you the agency grows, etc. How did you pivot to having your own brands eventually? Like what was the decision there?
So the thing is, when you when you work with lots of different brands, you learn a lot about everything like products and marketing and the marketing mix and email marketing, definitely how they do things. So you start learning a lot of things, and then if you think about it, say, okay, I know how to do something very unique, which is this Google, how to scale with Google Ads and Amazon, which by the way, is something we are currently leveraging at. It's like Amazon is working really well combined with Google Ads at the same time. But what I basically I asked myself, okay, so I'm doing this for third-party brands. Why not doing it myself? Because I know how to do, let's say, the acquisition channel, which is probably the most difficult thing to do, which everybody lacks that kind of experience, right? And that's why everybody looks for an agency and trying to get this acquisition funnel starting to work, right? So I know how to do that really well, profitably and at scale. So just by learning more about products, more about research and development, more about marketing mix, etc., I could just create my own brand myself, right? So that's why I decided to launch my own e-commerce brands at some point. So I've been
I
doing
think it's a
that for
very
two
big
years.
thing because there's a lot of agencies that will say, I'm gonna grow your brand, like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, but they haven't actually had their brand, right? So I assume that you learn quite a lot when you have your own brand.
Yeah, I think I think there's so many fake shit around the internet right now. Like everybody knows about everything, but then it really you start to really deep dive and see who's behind that, and they've done nothing, right? So how can you teach something that you've never done? So I think that's one of the things to be aware of. I know for new entrepreneurs and everything, like stop buying courses from people that haven't done what you want to do yourself, right? So be careful with that. Um, so yeah, again, it's something. So you learn from the agency, you launch your own e-commerce brand, but I've tested many different things and I've failed many different things and many different times. But at the end, knowing this expertise from working with big brands as an agency, it does allow you to have that expertise and that background in order to be able to start your own brand from scratch. I would say it's quite difficult to start it with if you don't know. Like acquisition is probably the most important thing if you want to start something from scratch. Because if you don't have new customers, then basically there's nothing you can do. So once you know that part, then understanding more about product hiring, you need to learn about lots of stuff, right? Budgeting and things. But acquisition is the most important thing. You need to funnel you need to get new customers, right, every day. So once you know that, that's basically why I decided to start my own brand. Say, why not do it myself? And then there's another big point here as well, which is about if you really want to exit at some point, it's easier to exit a brand. It has much more value than if you just exit a service company or a pure, let's say, agency, right? A brand has much more value. So if you're really looking into an exit at some point, um, I guess having our own brand, or it doesn't have to be an e-commerce, but it could be a SaaS or whatever. But having a brand makes it much more interesting for investors to invest in or to buy it.
And I also imagine that by having the brands themselves, you kind of learned how to grow brands in a more deeper level because, like, you saw the entire picture, right? Like the supply chain, how that works, how the manufacturers work, like what you can expect, like how the products actually, like how do you define the quality of the product before you start selling the product, like all of those things, right?
Yeah, that's key because at the end, if you really want to grow like a big brand, you need to have a really good quality products. Then obviously that affects the reviews that you're going to have, not just in Trustpilot, Google, etc., but in Amazon as well. So you need to have a good product. That's the first thing, right? So there's a big product development, product research, competitor analysis, etc. You need to do before launching anything. Um, so there's a big due diligence that you need to do before doing anything else. So that's key to start. So product development and research is key. Yeah.
What's like because I know a lot of people try to do Google ads and it's I suppose relatively easy to start like targeting brand keywords and so on, but like how do you actually grow on Google ads? Like what's perhaps like the one thing that people do wrong mostly?
Because if again brand bidding, everybody knows how to do that, right? Even my mother could do that. Uh, Even though she doesn't really know marketing, right? But that's not the way to go. So Google Ads again, it's about, I would say, um, it's about spending a lot of money. That's first thing. So you need to test different things. If you don't test, you're not going to be able to understand what works best. So that would be the first thing. And again, I spend a lot of money in Google, so I've got lots of learnings from all that spend. Let's say. And then at the end, you need to understand the algorithm, right? It is like probably like Facebook and other engines or LinkedIn or whatever. So if you don't really understand the algorithm, it's very difficult to scale. So those two things, and then probably getting a little bit more into detail, I would say that people when run Google Ads, they don't understand that you also need a funnel to convert in Google Ads, right? Because it's always people talking about Facebook and okay, I have this funnel, advertorials and VSLs and stuff, like because obviously it's more cold traffic than Google, right? But in Google, even though it's warmer traffic, you need a funnel in order to convert. It's not just by sending people to the typical Shopify product page and that's it. That's probably that worked probably 3-4 years ago, but that doesn't work now because you need a funnel, right? So understanding what's the right funnel in Google Ads makes a huge difference. So that's again testing different funnels and spending a lot of money. We do have a unique funnel that we use in Google Ads, and it's what really has made our brands really crush. And working as an agency, a performance marketing agency as well, we make a big difference compared to others. So yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit, like you don't need to kind of reveal everything, but just want to have a sense, like how does this funnel work? Like what's the structure?
What you need, yes, I'm not going to reveal everything, but it's not just a one-step funnel. So you need to warm up stuff. So just to give a little bit of an insight, I would say that people like to compare things, right? In general. So if you're allowed to, if you want to compare your brand, for instance, with another brand, and just tell the customer, potential customer, why you're better than the other, just highlight it. Like show the customer that your brand is better than others and why it is better than others. So you're trying to convince the customer before just showing the price and saying, okay, my product is the best, but I say it's the best. Why it's the best, right? So normally comparing things, it's a good thing to convert.
I see. How do you manage everything? Like how do you stay on top of everything? You mentioned delegation a lot, but I assume that even if you delegate, you still need to have like your finger on the pulse to some extent. And since it's performance based for your brands, obviously, and also for the brands that you have as an agency, like how do you keep up with everything?
Yeah, so I guess it's I don't sleep a lot to be honest. I tend to sleep like around 4 hours a day or something. So I wake kind of early. I try to get rid of the emails and stuff very early in the morning. And yeah, I'm very structured in my daily routine. So I try to keep um, let's say, on top of what's going on. I try to meet finance, product, marketing. I'm not saying every day, but weekly. So I do have a very organized agenda, I'd say, and try to accomplish what I have in mind. So I normally prepare that the night before, and then when it comes to the day, I normally try to deliver exactly what I was planning to do. So yeah, very organized. And then again, it's you need to have really good people working with you in order to be able to scale.
Is it like a fixed schedule, like same meeting every week, same day, same time, like that type of thing, or is it more flexible?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So I do have like a fixed agenda, and I'm trying not to get so many weekly meetings as I used to, but I do have like structured fixed meetings every week. Again, with marketing, products, and finance mainly. I do have some catch ups with IT as well, and even with customer support. But I try to have not so many meetings I used to have. And then I'm flexible in terms of, because I'm always in charge of new business as well myself. So I do run that on my own. Let's say I don't have like a new business development manager or something. So I do that on my side. So I spend some time in new business as well. But yeah, I do have some flexibility, of course. Again, when it comes more to commercial deals, commercial meetings, etc. And normally we work a lot with the US, so my afternoons here in Spain normally are covered with US meetings. So yeah, my daily agenda normally extends um, um, to evenings here in Spain. But yeah, I do have some flexible stuff for sure. But you need to have some structure. You need to have some structure in order to be able to accomplish whatever you want to do. So it's not, if you don't have like an agenda, it's very difficult to progress.
Did you always have like structure? Like for me personally, I'm also fairly structured and organized these days, but I wasn't always like that. I had to become like that because otherwise I was kind of not able to keep up.
Yeah, exactly. Because you need to, yeah, if you don't have structure, you're going to start having meetings every day. Like everybody wants to meet with you, right? So if you don't have your agenda blocked at some point, yeah, it's everybody's dropping stuff in your calendar. So yeah, you need to have structure. You need to have at least an agenda from the beginning of the day until the end of the day, and try to accomplish that. And then if you have some spare time, free time throughout the day, you can have some flexibility, right? But I think structured agendas are important in order to run the business.
What's like if you could I assume you have some sort of definition, but like what's the type of brand that you like to work with on an agency side? Like what are the criteria for someone to kind of work with you guys?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because once you start as an agency, you kind of work with nearly everything, right? It's like,
Yep.
if you don't have that kind of name, so it's, you want, the more you have, the you think it's the better, right? But it's not always the same. It's not that way. So when we start working with a brand, we are much more selective now than what we used to be before. Because at the end, in order to, when you work at a performance level, it's not like I'm getting a retainer fee or something. I need to make money. I need to sell in order to make money myself. So we do have a very deep dive analysis of the brand, and there are certain criteria that you need to have in order to be able to work with us. So you need to be like a solid brand, that's for sure. You need to, you have to be competitive in price. You need to have advantages other brands. So if people compare you, you can be better than the others. So there's some specific KPIs that you need to have in order to be able to work with us. But for now, we are working much more on the health and beauty sector, with big brands there. We're just focusing mainly on that vertical, because that's where we are getting the expertise, and it's much easier to scale for us as well, and it's easier for us to help the brands work.
I, I, th- I think you also learn the niche a little bit better, and it's just easier because you have more insight into what works, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we've been working in that particular niche now it's been for a year and a half now. And the brands are more stable, evergreen campaigns. That means it's not like one-off Black Friday campaign, you make money and that's it. So we prefer to have something much more stable throughout the year. So health gives you that, and beauty gives you that as well. Other niches don't. So that's why also my e-commerce brands are around health and beauty, much more stable, again, evergreen. And we like that, and then high margins as well. health and beauty gives you the advantage of the recurrency of the customers. So a customer can come back again. They need to come back again to buy that stuff, right? It's not like if you buy, I don't know, like a smartwatch, right? If you buy a smartwatch, that's it. You're not going to buy two or three. You're not going to come back to buy again. But if you're having, let's say, a protein powder, for instance, or collagen powder, you're going to need that every day, right? So it's a monthly subscription, monthly recurrency, which makes much more attractive as a brand to work in that niche compared to other niches.
I think you also like bundles a lot, right? Like because they increase the AOV a lot.
Yeah, because exactly. So you you're allowed in, at least in health, probably I'm not sure in other verticals, but in health and beauty, people, because you're going to need that product for the mid long term, right? So offering them three at a discounted price makes sense for the customer. So okay, I'm going to have to try this for 3 months, right? So why not buying three at the beginning? I get a discount and I test it for 3 months. So we offer bundles. That's a way to make profitable the business at a first sale, which is normally very difficult to do because people normally monetize and make profitable brands when you make repeated purchases and when you work on the back end, let's say. But we are profitable in our first sale, and that's about bundle strategy, upsells, downsells, product page optimization, CRO, etc. So there's lots of stuff and different KPIs I need to take into account. But it's very challenging nowadays to make a brand, let's say, profitable in the first sale. And we are able to do that again because we have this unique Google Ads funnel, and we are also complementing that with Amazon. We started with Amazon. It was March this year in 2023, and the compounding effect is massive. You obviously need to do it in a specific way, but if you learn how to do it, the brand explodes, and that's what we are experiencing right now. So it's a really good combination to work both at the same time.
You mentioned that you like to work with brands, like real brands that have advantages, like something unique about them. Is this like more on the product side, or like how do you mean that?
So it has to be something that makes your brand stand out from others, right? So it could be something on product, it could be something on marketing, it could be something on price, could be something. So you need to have something unique, right? So we use that USP, unique selling point, in our marketing landing pages, in our marketing strategy, in order to sell that. So that's why when people start comparing brands, which people normally do, because they don't know you, they want to compare. Okay, what are you offering different from others? That's what we normally use. So we are very focused on the USPs that a brand can offer, and that's what we use again in our creatives, in our landing page, in our funnels, in order to convince the customer this is the brand you should be buying and not the other.
I see. Okay, so you have like very specific criteria when it comes to selecting the brands that you guys work with. Do you have like something similar for the partners that you select for the brands that you have? Like for example, when we started working together, I recall like one of the points that you guys were interested in is that we had vertical expertise, like we had worked with similar projects. Like funnily enough, we didn't actually work on the project you had in mind. We worked in other projects, but like I believe you have there also some criteria.
Definitely. So I think obviously referrals, it's important. So if somebody that I personally know and I trust, if they do recommend me somebody to work with, I would definitely give it a try. And then we normally do like a good diligence, sorry, in terms of understanding who is behind or in which vertical, what's the expertise of the founder, which in your case obviously met those criteria as well. So you'd worked in the same vertical, very similar. You had expertise working on that kind of brands, so that makes it easier for us to choose that partner to start working with because you have the expertise. It's not just about knowing about e-commerce, because e-commerce is like huge, right? It's not having a clothing brand or an apparel brand or a gadgets brand or health. It's very different, right? The way it works and everything. So having the expertise in that particular niche in that particular industry, that makes it different, makes a difference. So that's something we look into. Yeah.
If you were to look back and like because you've done a lot of things on a lot of things, I guess, like what's kind of the like the number one thing that you think has had the most impact in everything you've accomplished? Like, what's kind of the most important lesson or like tip or like learning?
Well, there's different things, right? So I was born in Spain. So here, for instance, English or language is a big barrier compared to other countries. So not knowing English, for instance, it might sound stupid, but it's not stupid. It's critical. So in Spain, it's difficult to find people that speak fluent English. That's the first thing. So I was lucky enough because my mom pushed that since I was young. So I had a chance to study in an English school. So I had that English to start with. So that makes a difference because it stands you out from other people, right? Mainly in Spain because people don't speak English. So that was the first thing, and that was when I was a child. Right? That was thanks to my mum, by the way. So yeah, for sure. So learning English when you are young, at least in Spain or anywhere else, it's critical because at the end, uh, who are you going to make business with if you don't speak English? What the like there's no way you can really scale. There's no way you can travel abroad. There's no way you can date girls. There's no way you can do anything. So you need to learn English. That's probably the first thing you need to do. And in Spain, we're still catching up with that. It's taking time. Huh? It's at 2024, getting in 2024 now. We still haven't nailed the language barrier. Let's say. So yeah, English I would say was one of the best things I've had when I was young because I had the opportunity to study in English school. Um, um, then in terms of skills, I'd say sales probably is one of the most important things for me in order to be able to run a company. I think you need to sell something. So I think you need to have that experience at some point. Yeah, because you can learn about finance, you can learn about product marketing, you can learn about, but if you don't know how to sell, man, if you, it's difficult, no. And if you want to run a company, you need to sell something. You need to sell your services. You need to sell yourself. You need to sell your brand. You need to sell. It's about that, right? So I think sales. It's something I've been always very close to since I started working, even before Google. So I think sales is something important. Um, and then probably again management and understanding people and that links to hiring and getting top talent. I think it's very important because again, if you're not surrounded with top people, it's no way you can scale a business. So identifying the strengths and weaknesses of the people that you're hiring in your company, I think it's important. So I always had the kind of um, I'm saying it's easy for me, but I'm more used to understanding probably weaknesses and strengths from people and analyzing those persons. So probably that's an advantage as well compared to others. So that definitely makes a difference if you know who to hire or who not to hire. I think that's key. So yeah, those probably are three things. Probably much more, but anyway, yeah, probably.
That's really good. What about like the opposite? Like any thing that like comes to mind that if you could like turn back the clock, that you would kind of do differently, or like perhaps a mistake that you made, or like if you could advise basically yourself when you were younger and you were starting, like what would you do differently?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it's something that everybody should think about. Um, so you always listen to this like your network is your net worth or whatever, right? So I do think that's something that's important to build, which probably I haven't worked so much on that, like international connections and stuff. So once it comes to business, so having really good contacts in different aspects of the business can definitely help and speed up things. So probably networking and surrounding yourself with successful people, I would say that's a very important thing that I could have probably done better in my life. Um,
There's this thing that people say that you become like the people that are closest to you, and like I guess it makes sense. So like if you do actually connect with people that are like not necessarily more successful, but like take their life seriously, like, let's put it like that, like they want to do things in their life, it really, I believe, impacts you in a positive way.
that's definitely so. You're spending a lot of time with somebody that I don't know, like likes the basketball. At the end, you might like basketball, right? Or you meeting with somebody always that I don't know, whatever. So you obviously, if you're spending lots of time with certain people, at the end you're gonna think, or you're gonna probably like things that they do like, or you do things that they do. So I think surrounding yourself with successful people, or people that can offer something different, or from people that you can learn from, because sometimes it's yourself that you are kind of trying to, not saying teach people, but you share stuff for people that haven't had that experience. But at some point, it's important as well for you to keep learning, right? I think we need to keep learning every day, and you need to be surrounded by people that have done different things that you haven't done and that you can learn from. So I think that's very important, and I guess that's something I could have done much better in my life.
I guess you're also like, because you mentioned learning, etc. It's partially, I guess, why you're also coaching a few people. I guess, right? Like you want to help people, kind of like shortcut in a way.
So I haven't opened any program yet like that, but I am helping like one-on-one coachings for some people that really want to learn again, my Google Ads, performance marketing, and e-commerce brand as well. You know how to build that. So I am coaching people on that as well.
How does that work? Like in case someone is like wants to like try that, like how does that work at the moment?
Yeah, so I just have like weekly calls. I coach on how you should structure a Google Ads campaign in the best possible way you can. Again, that's not just about the account structure, but it's about the funnel. It's about everything and how you can work with different brands, how you can find those brands and start making money. Um, Additionally, how you can create your own brand as well, mainly on the health and beauty, because that's where I have the expertise on. Again, it's back to where we're talking about the gurus and people talking shit on the internet, like they haven't done anything. Well, I've done it myself, right? So I prefer to show people, teach people how to do something I've done in a specific sector. So I do that as well on the e-commerce side. And then on Amazon, again, when we started again in March this year, I think it's again the compounding strategy we are seeing now is it's massive. So I'm adding that as well to the coaching. If you want to create an own brand, you should have Amazon, and you should do it in a specific way, combined to your Shopify or your outside Amazon strategy, let's say. So yeah, I'm doing that for one-on-ones.
Would you say that like now is like a good time to start a brand if someone is like a beginner, like because obviously you had a lot of advantages, right? Like you had an agency, like you had spent a lot on acquisition, you knew what you were doing. Like for someone that's kind of like a beginner, is it a good time to start?
I think it's difficult to start. So if you haven't started anything on your own, so my first thing I would say is that if you want to start something, you need to be very aware of what starting something means. This is not, so it's something, again, it's everything. It's on in the internet, and people talking about the freedom and life and how good it is to start something, but starting something, it's like a fucking war every day, right? It's really challenging to keep going. And you need to be. It's not for everybody. Like it's what it is. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it's not for everybody. So you cannot start something from scratch just because you listen in the internet that you're going to start this and that's, and you're going to start making money tomorrow. That's not going to happen. So you're going to be failing. So you're going to get broke probably one or two times in your life. It's difficult to start something from scratch. So I would suggest people to really get some coaching from people who have done what they want to do. I think that's a shortcut, as you mentioned before. Like if you want to get there, okay, we're not talking to somebody that they've done this before. So learning before starting something, I think it's really important. So I think education is key here. I'm not talking about universities, but talking about really getting a mentor, coach, etc., to get where you want to go. And then in terms of e-commerce, I think you need to have a unique way of acquiring customers. That's probably one of the most difficult things. And then you need to retain those customers as well, obviously. So I wouldn't start an e-commerce brand myself if I wouldn't have a coach, and if I wouldn't have done anything on my own as an agency, or having worked with some clients before and learning more about what's a brand before starting on my own. I think the possibilities of failing, they're obviously very high always if you start something, but if you don't have that experience before, it's going to be much even higher. So I would suggest people to get some coaching, some mentorship on specifically what they want to do. And I would definitely advise to work with a brand, even as a freelancer, even, I don't know, as free, like offering free services to them, whatever. But learn something before really starting something from scratch. I think that's
One of the things I used to believe was that kind of like, and I still believe it, I guess. The best way to start is to go somewhere. It's basically what you're saying, like work with a company for a company that is doing what you want to do in a sense. But what I've noticed also is that you can do everything. Like you can go to the company, you can learn a lot of things. But when you start something, it's still gonna be hard. Like it's never easy. It's as you said, it's like always a war.
yeah, yeah. It's like it's crazy, and I do think that the message that it's people are putting out there in the internet is it's dangerous, because I understand that people want to kind of escape your 9 to 5 and all this kind of, like, okay, it's fine, but do you know what it takes to really start something from scratch? That's the other thing, right? That people don't really explain what it really takes to do that, and that's what's going to happen when you start something, right? You're going to fail every day. So normally failures are much more often than successes. So every day you're going to have stuff that you're going to have to sort out. Things don't go the way you would like to. Obviously, you need to manage high level of stress, and not everybody knows how to do that. So you need to know how to manage fuck situations basically every day, right? That's what you need to do, and that's all every day. It's not just I'm working from Monday to Friday. You need to work on Saturdays, you need to work on Sundays, you need to work on holidays. That's what people don't normally talk about when they say, okay, why didn't you start your own business? Okay, that's fine, but what does it take to do that? So all of these things should be taken into account before starting something. So,
What do you do to manage stress? Like like for example on WhatsApp you have like this picture where you are doing like a stretch, I believe, or at least you used to in the past. Like do you like do like I don't know like some exercise?
yeah, so it's funny because I didn't work out for a long time, but when I started my own company, I started to work out a little bit. So now I take it as a routine. I normally do 3 times exercise per week, and it does. Not saying it manages stress, but you kind of, yeah, you stand a little bit out of the business for some time. You start focusing a little bit on your health, and I think that definitely helps to be healthier in order to manage stress. But I think managing stress is more about being self confident. I guess it's more about really believing in yourself, right, and believing in people around you, but mainly on yourself. So if you believe in yourself, you know you can do it. You can manage stress easier. I know it's easy to say, but self confidence is one of the.
How do you build that though? Like because it's easy to say, but like how do you actually do that in the real world?
Yeah, I think you need probably. I think you need to expose yourself to those situations, right? So if you're always say in your comfort zone, or you're always doing what you like, and you're not exposing yourself to difficult situations, then it's difficult to manage those situations in the future, right? So you kind of, I think you need to be exposed to fucking complicated situations in order to be able to sort them out. And then, okay, once you sort them out once, you say, okay, I did it once. Why not doing it twice? And then, you keep going. But you need to get exposed to those things. And again,
I agree, and I think like a very big trap that people get caught on is that they do like something right. They do have like some level of success, and then they get attached to it, and they're like, I did that, so I don't want to expose myself anymore to anything like more challenging than that because if I do, I might fail, and if I fail, I'm no longer good enough. So like this kind of eats their self confidence in a way. So it's like I totally agree. I think it's really key to like don't be too attached to what you've achieved because you can do more than what you've achieved in a sense. And if you don't try and if you don't expose yourself, you're not going to actually do more.
correct. I think failure is part of success. I don't know. I don't think there's anybody out there that succeed without failing. So I think it's part of a success. Might sound a little bit strange what I'm saying, but I think you need to fail in order to succeed. So I think part of a success, failure is part of a success. So you have to. and you have to get broke at some point, and then again, those are the situations that you need to manage. That's where you start getting self-confident, right? Okay, I knew how to sort this out. It was not an easy thing to sort out, and then that's why you start building that self-confidence for the future.
Awesome, awesome. Jorge, like, what's the best way for people to contact you? Like, where can people find you, basically?
Well, I'm not very active on social networks. I might be doing more podcasts after this one with you. It's been a pleasure, George. So thanks for having me. I think probably LinkedIn might be a good way. I'm not going to leave my mobile phone here, so LinkedIn will be a good idea, and even by email. But probably LinkedIn, you should have made a DM there, and that's it. Probably my name is a bit difficult to find out if you're not Spanish, so I don't know how you want to do that, George. But
It's Jorge De La Puente, right? I'm gonna put it. Don't worry. Like, but I
yeah,
said it correctly. Jorge De La Puente.
yeah, you said it perfectly, man.
They say Greek is very similar to Spanish, so like probably that's why. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, like, for taking the time. It was, I think, a really good episode. You said a lot of things that have value, and thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure.